morning and welcome to the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency podcast, Civil Rights and You, the show that focuses on federal, state, and local civil rights and human rights issues and how they impact your daily life. My name is Charles Bryson, Director of the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency under the auspices of Mayor Lyda Crewson, and your host. Playing as our intro theme, as always, is Ronnie Jordan After Hours, when we do not own the rights to that recording. This podcast can be seen on Facebook Live and recorded at mycitymymusic.com. Did you find it? Okay. Today we'll be talking around black hair and black culture, and especially, obviously, women. With me today is Leslie Christian Wilson, who is the owner, manager, and everything else at Diversity Gallery. How are you, Leslie?
I'm wonderful, Charles. How are you today?
I am good. So let me start off with a little bit of my history. I have two daughters. And one of the things I never thought about being a dad was how I was thinking about treating my daughter's hair. And in fact, so much so that I said I'm going to leave that up to the mother. And, you know, I always joked with them and said, there's two things I can't do. One, I can't breastfeed you. Two, I can't do your hair.
Wow.
So there we go.
Okay.
But remembering those instances of torture and pain and argument about doing hair, and then realizing over the last 20 years, my oldest daughter will be 24 soon, realizing that the culture around black women's hair and actually black men's hair, as I think about it, has changed dramatically over the last 20 years. So I know you and I talked on the phone about the journey that you went on, and even this morning we talked about the journey.
Yes.
A little bit about yourself, and you were here last week, and thank you for that. A little bit about yourself, a little bit about Diversity Gallery, and then let's dive into this issue of black women's hair and black men's hair and how we've changed over time.
Yes. Again, thank you for having me. Again, I'm
Get me a little closer.
Leslie Christian Wilson with Diversity Gallery. Diversity Gallery has been in existence now, and I can't believe it, Charles, for 20 years.
Wow.
Serving the St. Louis community. We're your resource for all things natural. We carry all kinds of products. We do natural hair styling. I've always been into the naturalness of the hair. I don't use any heat or anything like that, or to alter the hair state in any way. So it's just been a blessing and an adventure to meet people at Diversity Gallery, because I don't think that we have customers, we have friends. We create connections, and we kind of, you know, it's like a ministry for our community. It's where it's like the barbershop for men. Diversity Gallery is that for women. And it's just something that I've been very proud of, and I just really appreciate St. Louis's support of small business, black owned.
Good. So you were mentioning before we started that I asked you about any picture that you might have, and you went back to high school graduation or college graduation?
Probably more college graduation.
So at that point in time, you begin to make a decision about, I want to change, and I will say hair. We'll get into the difference between hair and culture in a minute. But you said, I want to change my hair. I want to look differently. Mm-hmm. What precipitated that?
Well, as a kid, my father, my stepfather, he's my dad, period, but he had dreadlocks back when it was taboo, like when it wasn't even popular.
Well, so a little bit of, mm-hmm. I know you're from New York. So
no, I'm from St. Louis.
You're from St. Louis?
Yeah, born and raised.
Okay.
Yes. When we said the borough, I was just giving him trouble.
Oh, okay. So you grew up in an environment where you had someone who had dreadlocks.
Yes.
And that began that conversation.
Well, it didn't begin the conversation because honestly, as a kid, I was like, oh my God, you know, like having people over, you know, your dad has dreadlocks. You know, it was kind of like a taboo. Like really, it was back in probably the late 70s, early 80s. And, you know, people weren't ready for it. You know, people were not ready for the dreadlocks. I mean, they would go to Jamaica a lot, and that's where they got a lot of the culture. He has a plastering business called Third World Plastering Company because, it was a third world country that they would visit, and it was something that impacted him that he wanted to start his business and revolve it around that. So that was my first experience with natural hair. So as I evolved...
But you keep moving back and forth between natural hair and
the dreadlocks.
Well, let's get a definition. What is natural hair? Because that's now the conversation.
Yes, the conversation. When I say natural hair is hair that has not been altered chemically with chemicals to straighten the hair. That's my definition of natural hair. That is your natural hair that's growing naturally out of your roots of your scalp. That's your natural hair.
And no heat, no processing.
Well, heat is different. Heat is not a chemical, but heat can alter the elasticity and the straightness of your hair. It can straighten it, and it won't revert back. If you've hard pressed it so hard that, you've taken the curl pattern out, it still can kind of be natural because it's your natural hair. You haven't put chemicals on it, but it has been altered somewhat.
Okay.
By the heat.
Okay.
So that's my definition of natural hair. Okay. So when I say seeing someone with natural hair, my stepfather had the locks before I even considered them in my life. Mm-hmm. But I went through a progression of just having, going through the big chop. I had to do that process. So that came about with my sister. She was natural. She did not care. She wore her fro. She kept her hair natural. And that was my first perception of, wow, she's owning this thing.
And your sister's how much older than you?
She's 9 years older than I am.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So she literally was someone that you could look up to because of the distance and say, wow, this is somebody who's owning up to whatever their hair is going to be. Yes. It's going to be.
Yes.
So take us through, so this is when you were a young child, your dad had dreadlocks. I assume your mother didn't.
No, she did not.
Now, did she, what did she do and what did he do to and for your hair?
Okay. So that was where it happened. My hair, I had the thickest, coarsest hair of all my cousins. It was crazy. Like, my hair was the thickest. So I had to get, they first started pressing it. Okay, so it would take my aunt, her, and two of her girlfriends to press my hair because it was so long and thick, and for it to dry, it was just crazy. So from there, we progressed to the creamy crack, the perm, because my mom, she could have, but it was just what the culture was doing. Okay, this makes it easier. Pressing comb in a jar, So she fell right into it, and I would go get my hair done every week. We get it perm, but my cousin's hair, they had the more straighter hair. My hair was, like I said, thick, coarse, and long. So they would be...
So they had good hair and you didn't?
Yeah,
we have that conversation?
I never did equate good and bad, but it was bad for me because I had to sit under the dryer for 3 hours as opposed to their 1 hour. Mm. And they were out playing, and I was still under the dryer with my scalp getting more wet because I'm sweating under the dryer, and it would never get dry. So that was my equation, because you would be right, because my mom, her side of the family had the silky good hair, but then my dad's side of the family, their hair was beautiful, but it was thick and coarse, but it pressed out so pretty and fluffy. So when my hair was done, everybody was like, you got the good hair, because theirs was thinner, mine was like really full. So that was my first experience, and that's what my mom did for years. We permed it, and we went on, and, my aunt, she was about healthy hair, even though it was being permed. So our hair was still long, but, yeah, permed out.
Now, did you have a sense then that, why am I doing this? And who am I doing this for?
I did not. Because my mom was doing it. My aunts were doing it. But like I said, my sister, she stayed true to no chemicals. And she just did what she did with her hair. She kept it short, or whatever she did not perm it. And she stayed to that. And she tried to kind of bring me on, because she was the person who, if my mom wasn't doing it or my aunt, she would braid it or cornrow it for the summer. And so she always was the person who really did my hair.
Which I guess now brings us to the culture of hair, and how from a very young age, young black women, African American girls, are taught what their hair is supposed to be about.
Yes.
And how I know my daughters were, we had cornrow in the summer and all the little braids and, all of that. And as I watched from afar, I thought, man, that's like torture. And who are we doing this for? Is it because, well, my mom did it and my grandmother did it and whatever, or am I doing this because my children want it, which I would argue they may not have been young enough to have that conversation. But certainly, as I look back, I have no idea what we were doing that for.
Okay, so
or whom we were doing that for.
And we're speaking about taking our hair from our natural state to the perm. Who were we doing it for?
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, in retrospect, we were doing it to assimilate. I mean, it was just what it was. It was an assimilation. We wanted our hair straight. We wanted it silky because those are the images that we saw. We all know that, within the media, when you're looking at something, we were never portrayed in the media with our natural hair. It was always altered in some state. So who we were doing it for, I don't know why consciously we didn't come to this realization until, just recently. But we were doing it, I feel, to assimilate. Or another side of that coin was to make it easier because we weren't trained really to know what really to do to our hair in its natural state. That we were never taught that. What to do with it naturally other than pressing it or braiding it up or things of that nature. So it was taboo because you couldn't get a job if you wore your fro. It made too much of a statement to come in and, oh yeah, you have your hair in a fro, so we were not going to be able to give you the job. So we assimilated.
And still now,
yes,
both in terms of kids, as director of the Civil Rights Agency, those news feeds pass my desk all the time where kids are being kicked out of school simply because of the way they wear their hair.
I think that is crazy.
And I find that part fascinating, but I want to get back.
Okay.
At some point, there was a change in Leslie. I would argue both physically and mentally around what you do with your hair. When and how did you begin that?
I began that because I went to work in corporate America, and of course, you had the hair straight and whatever, and I just was tired of corporate America, so I kind of switched industries. So I started working at Naps, and I started doing natural hair, and at the time, it was hilarious because I had straight hair, still had straight and permed hair doing natural hair. So Makat was like, we ain't gonna be able to do this because how are you doing natural hair and your hair is still permed? You're gonna have to, you had to lead by example. So I did it. I just, I went on and I did the big chop. I had long hair.
And the big chop is?
Just cutting it off to your new growth. The curly natural hair that's coming out of your scalp that has not been processed or touched.
So it's really, really low.
Yeah, I had maybe about an inch of hair on my head.
And is that, to stop for a minute, how important is the big chop? Because I keep hearing about it, and how it is the start of the process.
Yes.
How is that like? You can't do anything else but chop it all off and start all over again.
I tell people you have to go ahead and do the big chop because if you don't, you still have the chemical on your hair. I don't even do people's hair where I have to still touch that chemical. And the chemical can even still be within your follicle for a while. So when you think, I've already cut out this much, it can still kind of come out straight. So you still have to continue to clip those ends. So the big chop is getting all of that permed hair off down to your new growth. And a lot of girls, they try to transition. They may try to grow it out 4 inches and leave that perm on the ends, and curl it up. They try to do, all those things, which I respect because it is hard, when you're coming from this hair or how I'm going to look or how am I going to be perceived. But I let them know you're beautiful inside and it's going to relate on the outside. It's about self-esteem. This is something that you're doing for yourself to be what and who you are. You need no one's approval or disapproval about what it is you're doing if this is where the road and the journey that you're on.
And we had that conversation earlier about approval and disapproval, and how I've got to do this for me. Yes. If I have a partner or family, whomever, they're going to just have to deal with it.
Yes.
But that pressure is so, when you talked about it earlier, because I'm 61 and I remember all the ads. They were all white women, by the way, and they were all blonde. But all even today, the long silky hair and all of that, that plays on other people's minds, not just the woman going through the big chop, but that plays on our mind. Men talk about, I want to run my fingers through your hair. Well, I'm sorry, you ain't got hair. I don't have hair for you to run my fingers through. Yeah,
and run it through it. Okay,
yeah. But so some of that is really embedded in our psyche as Black folk.
Yes.
How a woman's hair ought to look.
Yes.
And that's both coming from white people, but also African Americans.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I had two examples. One being that I had a client. She came in and her husband came in with her. He was like, "Oh, I don't like this." So I looked at him and I said, well, really, it's not about what you like or dislike. She's trying to do something for herself, to empower herself, to make her feel good. So you have to get on board. I said, so you're telling me you want her to put something in her hair that's going to be a chemical that's going to go into her brain and possibly have some adverse effects for you to say that she looks good. This is your wife, who you married, who you say you love. I just don't equate it.
But I didn't love all of that.
Yeah, I didn't love all of that. I like her looking like this. I said, do you have to like her looking the way she likes to look? It's about her self-esteem, not yours. Let her do her thing. And to this day, he'll laugh at me. He said, you got me good. You told me. He said, I'm so glad you put it in that perspective,
right, that
it's not about me and what I think, but it's my job to empower her, to tell her she's beautiful, whether it's down her back or that she has a 1-inch fro. And she loved it. And when he came on the board, she was more confident, which I told her, I said, this is about you, not about him. So we can't make it about him. If you don't like it, that's okay. He has to sit with that he doesn't like it.
Right.
And you have to move forward in your journey to get to your goal. And to this day, she's locked. I mean, she's not locked, but she's natural. She's happy, and they're still happily married.
Good. So women are, black women, we're talking about black women, are wearing their hair shorter as well now. I've noticed a lot of that.
Yes.
Is that part of where our culture is moving in some respects?
I think it's not necessarily. I think it can be a little cultural, but I think it's just a personal choice. People are kind of tired of dealing with their hair. And that's a thing, too. Like, I do natural hair, and I don't feel like dealing with mine a lot. Hence the reason that I locked, because I don't have to do much with it. I don't have to, do anything but retwist my locks and go. So I think for some people, it's just a convenience. I can go get it cut short, brush it, and I'm out. I don't think it's about, I'm making this decision to be more, pro-black or pro-this. It's just pro-me. This is what I like. This is what I'm going to wear. And get ready for it.
But by culture, I mean, we are now moving to a place, although there's some reticence, where wearing your hair that way is I will use this term, don't jump at me, allowed.
That's right.
And even in corporate culture.
Right.
One of the weird feeds I get on a regular basis, which angers me, but I also have to laugh at, is the celebration every time a female newscaster changes her hair to something natural.
Okay.
And it's like, and so-and-so on so-and-so Witness News changed their hair to, and I'm like, why are we doing this? But I understand how important it is for us to raise people up.
Yes.
In a way of also rallying around them. You made, you made a personal choice, a personal journey, but your personal journey has issues related to it around culture and race, etc. And so not only are we highlighting the fact that you did that, but we're also letting everybody else know that we're watching what happens to you because of you doing that.
Yes. So we look at it right now in the media with Gabrielle Union, with her on America's Got Talent. They say, oh, your hair is too this, it's too black, it's too, can you tone it down? Like, really? Like, that's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. Like, no one else gets, talked about how their hair is on their head. No one but our culture. And it's staggering and it's disappointing, especially in the 21st century. We're still talking about our hair. Everything about us is an issue for you, but you assimilate it. Okay? That's the thing that gets me, like, it gets my nerve. Like, everything about us, people can assimilate, but when they do it, it's perfection. Kim Kardashian can put cornrows in, and they're the bomb.com. But we wear them, oh, that's not appropriate. That's not nice. That's not good. That looks unprofessional.
It hurts our corporate image for you to do that.
Yeah, but they wear it, and oh my God, they can take our culture and make it their own, and it's glorified, it's approved of, and it's just disappointing. It really, that's the one thing that really grates my nerve.
When when women come to see you around getting their hair changed, I'll use that term. Trepidation, fear. What goes on when they walk through those doors and you see that look on their face, like I'm getting ready to do something. Yes. I'm not sure what I'm getting ready to do.
Yes.
But what walk me through that.
It can be, you're right, at times you're that counselor. Not only am I doing hair, I'm counseling you, I'm, motivating you, I'm empowering you, because it is a change. And it's sometimes people, they're not ready for it, the totality of it. Okay, they're ready for the quote unquote big chop that they've heard about. But actually doing it, and now they're sitting there with an inch of hair, that's something different. So my spiel is like, I talk to them about before I cut anything, to make sure.
Let's chat.
Yeah, let's chat. Let's have a conversation around it so we can know where we're going. I always want to know what their journey is. What is your goal? What is your end goal with this? And when I listen to them and their end goal is, I just want healthy hair, or, it's a different look that I want to achieve. I just want to own my own identity. It could be all of those scenarios that I face, but my job as their stylist is to empower them, to let them know all of the details of what this is going to be, what it's going to look like, because they may be on a locking journey. They just may want it, it coiled out. They just may want it twisted. You know what I'm saying? Or they just may want to do wash and go. So I have to just get them prepared for what that's going to take, what products are going to help them to get to that end, and empower them through the journey.
I have seen shorter hair and a lot of women nowadays. Is that part of this conversation, that I don't have to have my hair a certain length? I can do kind of what I want to with it. Yeah. And is that also self-empowering?
I think it is. I think it is self-empowering. Self-empowering in the respect that I can do what I want to do with it. If I want to grow it long, I can. If I want to wear it short, I can. If I want to wear it short and blonde, I can. If I want to have a covadis, I can, because I'm beautiful, because I'm me. My hair is not me. It's not me. That's what I tell people. Your hair is really not you. It's an extension of you, but it doesn't change your character. You either good, you're who you are at your core. Your hair is just an extension. It's an accessory.
But is it though? Is it? So much of our life around African American women is their hair, and I know, I used to play relentlessly the song from India Irie, "I Am Not My Hair."
Yeah.
I almost changed my theme song today to that, because that's what I wanted them to know, that whatever this is just stuff.
Yeah.
It does. but I'm also tempted to say, yeah, it is. And as women evolve, African American women evolve in their hairstyle, to some degree, it is part of their essence.
It is your essence, but it's not who you are. That's my thing. It can be your essence, but it's not who you are. Whether your hair is short or long,
because you can't say me going into that that booth and sitting down and getting my hair done a certain way is not a psychological and sociological culture change for me. It is a statement. I am saying I am taking control, and what I've also noticed, oddly enough, our African American men are beginning to change how they look. I remember the weave cap and all of that madness, and everybody had a brush in their hand, and they would keep the brush with them, and all that stuff. But they're also saying I am making cultural changes as well, following women, and so there is something about that hair, whatever it is. There's something about that hair as part of no different than you putting on a suit every day. You know that is part of your armor, if you will. Is what your hair is for you. I just feel that we unfortunately have allowed that to escape us and go out to a bigger culture where people are now using it against us. But the fact is, nowadays hair does represent a psychological, sociological change in who we are and how we see ourselves in the mirror every day.
Yeah, I think it has had a physiological effect. It's been embedded in us as an innate quality about us that's bad or not approved of. So that's what's happening. I think the narrative is getting changed. And that's what, my job is, to help change the narrative, to put focus more on your children and, things, the matters that are really, that's impactful. Your hair is your hair. Just like if I choose to put on a Brioni suit or whatever I choose to put on, that says, hey, this is what and who I am. And your hair does make a statement. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that that's not important or whatever, but I just want the narrative to be changed about it. Like, we allow people to put us in a box about who, what, and who we are. We have to break that. We have to break those chains and just be. That's all I want, is to just be. I don't care what I'm doing with it. It's mine to do. I have a choice. Like we talk about pro-life, whatever we talk about. It's like you have a choice. And you have a choice to do what you want to do with yours. Now, in corporate America, that's the changes. We need to be making some changes with that. Going into our schools, there are some changes that need to be made, because you can't even go to school. Our kids can't even go to school with their hair locked or twisted or whatever without them being ostracized about it.
And the young man who had to have his hair cut before he could wrestle. And everybody around that judge said that's not necessary, but the judge was so adamant in making him cut his hair as a way of demeaning and belittling him. He won the match. And then they suspended the judge, the referee, if you will. I thought that was significant because it shows you the depth that people will go to try and hurt us, maim us, attack us.
The implicit biases that are imposed are atrocious. And until we stand up and just, you have to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. And this is something that we can't continue to fall for. So much other things that we need to make an impact for our children about that it's just ridiculous. I just can't even, it's like for me, I can't even in my heart, like come up with the words as to why we're projecting on these things, not who I am as a person, how I show up for work, what kind of work that I do, who I am as a human being, being human and kind. You want to focus on what my hair is doing. I can't learn nothing. I'm smart. I got a 4.0 with dreadlocks, but you want me to cut them.
Right.
Like, that's going to change the outcome of anything other than your comfortability.
True.
That's the only thing we're dealing with is how you feeling about it. Not how I feel when it's mine, but how you feel about it. And that's the part the narrative that needs to change. I don't care. I don't need your approval or your disapproval about anything I do with my person. Period.
And that's true of us because we are sometimes I have been to places where people talk about other folks' hair. There was some Facebook or Twitter just went crazy. I think Simone Biles was.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And they were talking about her edges. Now this woman
ridiculous.
has won championships all over the world, but you're going to talk about her edges.
They want to talk about her edges, like you said, when she's accomplished what she's accomplished. And this is what we're going to talk about, not her accomplishments, but that her edges. Come on. I thought that was the most ridiculous, demeaning thing I'd ever heard of. And she was only looking like they were with the hair that she had, with the little clips keeping it. I mean, she looked like her team members in theory. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, their edges were straight because that's how their hair comes out of their head.
Right.
The girl is practicing 20 hours a day. Who cares? Look at what she's accomplished as an African American woman in the gymnastics industry. Come on. But we're going to talk about her hair. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemies in that.
I was in prepping for this show. I was telling somebody what the show was going to be about, and they were talking about one of my favorite subjects is good hair.
Ooh, yeah.
And they couldn't get off the narrative of good hair, which I remember as a child because everybody wanted to be part Indian because the Indians had the good hair, so it helped cut down on the naps. And I thought about that as now as an adult, how ridiculous that is. But there still is that narrative in our community around the issue of good hair.
Yeah.
And who has quote unquote, and although nobody can define good hair, everybody wants to talk about what it is.
It's just another vehicle to put you in a box. Oh, you have good hair, you have bad hair, you have this, you have that. And it's just a bunch of nothing. I mean, because what does it matter whether whatever it is yours. If you have 4C, 1C, 5R, whatever, it's your hair. And you have a choice to do what you want to do with it. You can choose to do it natural. You can put a wig on every day. Whatever it is, you have choices. But my thing is whatever choice you make, just make sure that your scalp and your hair is healthy down up there. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what you do to it.
And as you would say, it's your choice.
It's your choice.
To do that.
Yes.
Where do you see the industry going over the next 10, 20 years? Are we becoming more natural? And I'm still having some conversation with what that looks like, what that means. But are we becoming more natural, or are we becoming more because I see people going to the beauty shop still in record numbers. So
people are still going to the beauty shop. People are still coming to it, but the natural phenomenon has gone viral. I mean, it's amazing. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Natural hair care products and things of that nature have become an industry within itself. So it's showing you that, people are going more towards that direction because they're having products that they can use in their hair that work for them in its natural state. So I think, it's going in the direction of, people are getting it, people are overstanding it, and they are embracing it.
And so that'll continue to happen both on a female level, but also on a male level. Do males, because males don't put a lot of product in their hair, do they still have to go through the big chop, or do they just...
Well, because see, what people don't understand, even because sometimes our men use a texturizer that is a lighter type of perm. And even that texturizer breaks that hair down to a point. They'll say, oh, no, I didn't do anything to my hair. But when I'm getting ready to do it and I'm seeing that it's not the curl pattern that should be there, it's not there. And I say, oh, did you put a texturizer? Yeah, I put a text in about, a month ago. Okay, well, the text is still there. It's still there. It's going to stay there until we cut it off, until we get that, like I said, the new growth coming out of the hair, then you're texturized. So if you want the look that you're saying that you want, which are the twists that are coiled, then we're going to have to eventually start cutting off this texturizer. Or you can wait until you get that 1 inch which for me, I can, do it a half an inch to an inch to start twisting it. But, yeah, they use chemicals too.
Do we as men go through that same conversation that women go through about how am I going to look at the end and how do I fit in corporate America, et cetera?
Yeah, they do, because it's really hard for them. Not only is it about them being an African American man, now they've added dreadlocks on it. So,
but you see that in I mean, there are movies where the woman still has her straight whatever hair, but men have dreadlocks, et cetera. And so a lot of the quote unquote black culture movies, you see men having those dreads or whatever. I would think it's less of an issue for us because we still have a suit on, and so we still have that corporate look, the suit and the tie and all that stuff, versus a female you walk in the door, that's literally the first thing you notice about a woman is her hair.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, with people that I've come in contact with, a lot of it could be like trendy, like a lot of the kids, they don't even, know, like you said, dreads. I would never call them dreads because that's a negative connotation. That's why we call them locks, because they're locks. They're not dreadful. When we say that dreadlocks, people are like, oh my goodness, what, it's dreadful. So we change.
Any other connotations associated with having dreadlocks?
Yes.
You're a weed smoker, you're a drinker, you're doing this, so you do all those things.
And, it's the Rastafarian culture. That's where the dreadlocks or the locks, where they came from. And they're really actually organic. They're living off the land. What they're smoking is the natural medicinal properties of it, not, promoting that or not. But it's all natural. They're vegan. They're living off the land. They're not doing anything but being a naturalist, herbalist. So, but a lot of the kids, in the younger age, a lot of them, it's very kind of a trendy thing that they're doing. A lot of them are not in corporate America. A lot of them have had to cut their locks off. They come to me, if I want this position, then I'm going to have to cut my locks off, because they're saying, going into this realm, I need to look this way.
Which unfortunately is why there are laws that have to be passed that say you can't discriminate based on the fact of how somebody's wearing their hair. Yeah. Why do we have to do that?
Why do we have to do that? And it's only affecting us. I mean, it's not affecting them.
No.
We don't ever say, oh, you can't perm, because they get perms to make their hair curly. And we don't say, oh, well, that's inappropriate. You can't put a chemical on your hair. But they can tell us we have to put one on ours. That's just ridiculous. I mean, I just don't get it. That's why I got out of corporate America, kind of, because you can't be authentically who you are, with your hair, with your thoughts. It's like everything about us is under a microscope. Anything we say, anything we do, how we appear, how you dress, you just like, we have to be like little robots, following in line, But we can't be our own people.
True. So you see this growing even more over the next 10 to 20 years. Do you also see that creating some sort of cultural change in our community? Is it safe to say that as women take more and more control over their psychology, if you will, there'll be changes in how they view their space in our community?
Definitely. I think the first part is the ownership, is the level of confidence about it, is not seeking the approval, is standing for something, is bringing it to the light, if you will, when situations happen and you can document that, the reason why this is happening is because I wore my hair this way, or, I came to work, and it's crazy. People want to come up and touch it. They want to touch your hair. Like, who does that? Like, it's hair. Like, we don't walk up in the supermarket and can I touch your hair?
Or begin to touch it and then ask.
There you go. And that's what they do. And I've had it happen so many times. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is my personal space. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Period. I don't care who you are, black, white, pink. Don't touch me without my permission.
Right. Do you? I guess I'm looking at backlash, and I'll say this a little bit differently. So correct me if.
Okay.
As we get more and more involved in our culture, there's going to be a backlash. There has been a backlash around us. And I'm looking at the historic date, supposedly, of the 2040 census, where people of color become the majority in our country. So is some of those isolated incidents going to be even less isolated as we move forward, as we are claiming our identity, and that includes hair and dress, etc? There's going to be, there has been, I believe, a backlash around, well, we want you to keep part of what may be our culture and not your culture. And hair, for a majority of folks, is that starting point.
Yeah. It's their starting point. I mean, like I said, I can't wrap my mind around it. Like, I can't, wrap my mind around someone having an opinion about what I do. You know what I mean? But I think we're moving to that space as a culture. The culture, the momentum is moving towards, I'm owning me. I'm owning this. I'm a human being, period. That I can do what if I'm not hurting anybody, how I show up bothers you to the point that you want to dictate how I wear my hair. That's what it is. So with that being what it is, then yeah, we got to change the narrative. We got to let it be known. We got to set precedents that that's not the way it's getting ready to continue to be. We're out the jackals. We're ready to show up and be authentically what and who we are as human beings, and I think that we're phenomenal, and we're so phenomenal that anything and everything that we do is assimilated, but we can't do it.
Which also means we need to bring some of us along on that journey.
Yes.
Because as you said earlier, and as I've said previously, we may be our own worst enemy around, especially around hair. Not only from a perspective of African American women saying, why she wear her hair but African American men, well, I'm never going to date anybody who does this, and she has to be X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So part of that journey really entails us teaching each other.
Yeah.
I would assume about what our expectations are about our women and
how we treat
hair.
them, how we perceive them. We're not your possession. I'm not going to date a girl that's natural. Well, then, really? But you're going to date one that got a horse head on the back of her. I'm just saying, not that I judge that. I mean, like I said, I'm comfortable with everybody doing everything that they want to do. If that's what your choice is, to put something else on there, fine. I've done it. It's not a judgment. But to say that you're not going to date someone, this could be, not date someone because they're wearing their hair natural, because they're being authentically themselves. So
and as their personal journey takes place, you have to go along for part of that ride.
So you mean
that's what you sign up for?
You're dating a ponytail and not a person's mind, or how they treat you, or how they support you. That's what you're dating. That's what you're looking for. When you're looking for who you gonna say I do to, she got to have a horsehead ponytail on the back. On the back. Yeah. So that's the criteria number one. So we have to get those criteria changed, because when you get out there and then she get to that house and she take that wig off and you're like, oh, I don't like that. The women are sleeping in them because the men don't want to get up looking at them with their bonnets on or whatever that they have on, and they're sleeping in them, causing their edges to go back here, the hair to rub off everywhere, because you sleeping in a wig because your partner doesn't know who you are. Period. I don't want to date you if you couldn't date me with, with me being my natural, authentic self. You're not my type either. So women have to stand up for who they are and have their own self-esteem about themselves. And 9 times out of 10, women tell me when the guys are like that, that they ain't their speed anyway, because they're not highly evolved and they're not woke and they're not conscious. Period.
And that starts with very young boys.
It's learned. It's
and
learned.
that behavior.
Yeah.
Saying, it's not saying that, well, my mom pressed her hair, so I expect my wife to press her hair, etc.
And press is fine. I mean, that's natural. The hair can be, because you can't press a perm.
True.
I'm just saying, or you won't have any.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, stop using that as an identifiable marker to judge a character of someone you wouldn't choose to be with based on that marker. Those markers need to be deleted. And the marker needs to be more of, wow, would they be a good mother? Would they be a good wife? What is their character? What is their credit score? Okay? I'm just saying.
Not the credit score.
Yeah, I was going to put that in there because that's why we wouldn't date them. Because the credit score might not be right. I'm just saying we're going to put that. That's like apples and oranges. But I'm just being silly.
Two things. I need to know your HIV status.
I need to know it all.
And what's your credit score?
What's your credit score? What is all that? And what you doing? 5B, 3 Yaki. These are now the new criteria?
Well, I want you to know that probably 55 years ago, I stopped putting Brill cream in my hair.
Oh, wow. Yay!
So which is why it's dry today, but it works.
Not.
It's, I don't do nothing to my hair other than wash it every once in a while.
Wash it and oil it. I mean, like we were talking about the industry, like I've been doing natural hair now for about 20 years, and I'm about to develop my own products. My daughter, Skylar, has her product, Skylicious Naturals, where, because doing hair, it was for her, oh my gosh, she would cry before, doing, and after, because her hair was thick and long like mine, but tangly. So you have to find something that works for your hair. So we developed her product, and it's for kids, and it's amazing to keep that hair moisturized, because that's half the battle. When the hair is dry and brittle, that's when it breaks. That's when it tangles. And that's why you have to do that big chop, because if you have curly, coarse hair, and then you have this straight, brittle hair, it's going to break off anyway, because the elasticity at that point, it's just going to pop. So I just tell people, go on and cut it off so that the nutrients, the healthiness that you're ready to impart into your hair, it can go there, not to the end, to that perm that's dead. Let it all go into that, and it'll grow exponentially.
So one question I'm going to ask you about Diversity Gallery again. When women look at themselves after the big chop, is it an exclamation point? Is it a, oh my goodness moment? What is it when they do
that? It varies. Sometimes I get, oh, I love it. So I'm like, oh, I'm going home, put that wig right back on. I do. I get that. That's the gamut of what I get. So I'm like, okay. But I tell them, go out into the world. Not that the world is your mirror. Just wear it one day. Just go try it. Just see the responses and reactions that you get from people, and then kind of go from there. But it's a steady course of empowerment all the way through. I take them through. I don't just drop them. I check on them. How you doing with it? Oh, it's puffing out. Okay, that's what it's going to do. Don't worry about it. Come back in. We'll get you, back together. But I send them with one mantra. You are you. It's period. I mean, don't worry about it. Don't worry about the response. Don't worry. As long as you like it, as long as you're doing what you need to do to get to your journey, to get to your end goal, it's perfect. And that's what I empower them with. And for 20 years, I have clients that I've had for 20 years that I still do their hair. And, they's like, Leslie, you're not just a hairstylist. You are our counselor. You are a mentor. You honor what we are trying to do and help us bring it to fruition. And that's a process that lasts. That's why I say I don't have really customers. I have more friends, because I make connections. I want to make sure that they're good in the world, that they're confident as they leave me and they go out into the world as themselves, and know that they're enough as they entree into the world. Whether they cut it or not, they're still enough. You came here enough. What you choose is a choice that you're making. It's just a choice, and like anything else, guess what you can do? You can change your mind.
Right.
You can change your mind, and you can do something different.
Well, I want to thank you for that, because that was, I think, a lot of women are nervous
Yeah.
about both their personal relationships and society in general, and having you and others support and encourage them, I think is important as they move forward. Last couple minutes, actually last minute. What's new coming up for Diversity Gallery, and I'll say the holidays, which may include Christmas.
Yes.
But what's going on in Diversity Gallery?
Diversity Gallery, working with Habitat for Neighborhood business. We're trying to get ourselves back acclimated. We've moved from the Loop down to North Sarah, which, people don't come across the Delmore Divide. We need to cut that. It's safe. Come support your African American businesses. Like I said, my daughter's products, Skylicious Naturals, are in store there, and she'll be on Fox 2 News. Show Me St. Louis on Friday, so check her out.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. And I'm about to develop my own line of hair care products to help women, transition and be able to use a product that really works in their hair. Not that the other products don't.
Did you say women or women and men?
Women and men. It's for everybody, and boys and girls. It's for everybody. It's universal.
So, where's Diversity Gallery?
Diversity Gallery is located at 1010 North Sarah Street in the Historicville neighborhood. Just north of Delmar on Sarah.
And you have media presence all over the place?
Yes, we're on Instagram as Diversity Gallery St. Louis, and on Facebook as Diversity Gallery.
And your hours?
Our hours are varying right now with our winter hours, but we're definitely there Tuesday and Wednesday by appointments, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 12 to 5.
Anything else for the good of the order?
I just want to thank the St. Louis community for always supporting Diversity Gallery, and have a safe and happy holiday season.
Leslie, thank you for being here today and participating, and appreciate the conversation around black hair and by extension black culture.
It's my pleasure, and thanks for all you do for our community, Charles.
Thank you. We're out.